Lisa had always been the type of person who woke up at the smallest sound. Living alone in her small apartment for almost 4 years, she knew every noise the old building made. The pipes creaked at exactly 2:15 a.m. The neighbor upstairs walked to the bathroom around 3 a.m. The heating system made weird clicking sounds when it turned on, but tonight was different. At exactly 3:17 a.m., Lisa heard something that made her sit up straight in bed. It was a soft humming sound, almost like someone was singing without words. The sound wasn't coming from next door or upstairs. It was coming from her own bedroom. Lisa lived in a studio apartment, which meant her bed was in the same room where the sound was coming from. She was currently sleeping on the pull-out couch in what she called her living area. Her actual bed was on the other side of a folding screen she used to separate the spaces. The humming continued for about 30 seconds, then stopped completely. Lisa held her breath and listened. Nothing. Maybe she had been dreaming. Maybe it was just the wind outside, though there wasn't any wind tonight. She was about to lie back down when she heard it again. This time it sounded almost musical, like someone was humming a lullaby. But there was something strange about it. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, not just from one spot. Lisa reached for her phone and turned on the flashlight. Her heart was beating fast, but she wasn't the type to call the police over strange noises. She had to check for herself first. Slowly, she got up from the couch and walked toward the folding screen. The apartment was small, so it only took her 5 steps to reach it. She could see a faint light coming from behind the screen. Not the harsh white light from a phone or flashlight, but something softer, almost blue. She pushed the screen aside just a little and peeked through. What she saw made her freeze completely. Sitting cross-legged on her bed was someone she had never seen before. But calling this person someone didn't feel right. The figure was tall and thin, with skin that looked pale blue in the strange light. Their eyes were much larger than normal human eyes and completely black. No white parts, no colored parts, just deep black like looking into space. The strangest part wasn't even how this person looked. It was what was floating around them. Small shapes made of pure light were spinning slowly in the air above the bed. They looked like geometric patterns, triangles, circles, and shapes that Lisa couldn't even name. They moved in a slow, peaceful dance, creating the soft blue glow that filled the space. The humming was coming from these floating shapes. Lisa stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only a few seconds. Her brain was trying to process what she was seeing. This had to be a dream. People don't just appear in your bed, and things definitely don't float in the air while humming. But everything felt too real to be a dream. She could smell something strange, like rain on metal. She could feel the cool air from her apartment's terrible heating system. Her feet were cold on the wooden floor. The being on her bed suddenly stopped humming and looked directly at her. Lisa's first thought was to run. Her second thought was to scream. But something about the way this person was looking at her made her do neither. Their expression seemed embarrassed, like when you walk into the wrong classroom and everyone stares at you. "Oh," the being said, and Lisa was shocked to hear perfect English. "You are awake." The voice was unlike anything she had ever heard. It sounded like music and words at the same time. Like someone was speaking while playing a flute. It was beautiful and weird and scary all at once. "I can explain," the being continued, and now Lisa could definitely hear embarrassment in that musical voice. Lisa realized she was still peeking around the folding screen like she was hiding. She stepped out completely and faced this impossible situation. "You're in my bed," she said. It was the first thing that came out of her mouth, which seemed ridiculous given everything else that was happening. "Yes," the being said, looking down at the bed like they had just noticed where they were sitting. This was not intended. The floating shapes were still moving around them, but slower now, and the humming had become quieter. Lisa found herself staring at them. They were actually quite beautiful. "What are those?" she asked, pointing at the lights. "Thought forms," the being said, as if this explained everything. "They help me meditate." Lisa had so many questions she didn't know where to start. Who was this person? How did they get into her apartment? Why were they meditating on her bed? What were thought forms? How were they floating? How was any of this possible? Instead of asking any of these important questions, she said, "You need to blink more." The being looked confused. "Blink? You haven't blinked once since I've been standing here." "Humans blink. A lot." "Oh," the being said. and then started blinking rapidly like they were trying to make up for lost time. Not that much, Lisa said, and found herself almost smiling. Just normal blinking. Every few seconds. This was insane. She was giving blinking lessons to someone who had broken into her apartment and was doing impossible things with floating lights. "Are you going to hurt me?" she asked, suddenly remembering that this was probably the most important question. The being stopped their rapid blinking and looked genuinely surprised. "Hurt you? No, absolutely not. I am a researcher, not a... What do you call them? A warrior? A researcher? Yes, I study human behavior patterns, specifically domestic routines and sleep cycles." Lisa stared at them. "You've been watching me sleep?" The being's pale blue skin somehow managed to look even more embarrassed. "Not watching exactly, observing, from a distance, usually." "Usually? Your bed has very good energy alignment," the being said, gesturing to the floating shapes around them. "When I need to meditate, this location provides optimal conditions." Lisa walked closer to the bed. Now that she was getting used to the impossible situation, she was becoming curious instead of scared. "How long have you been doing this?" "Coming here? Approximately 3 weeks in your time measurement." 3 weeks? Lisa's voice went higher. "You've been sneaking into my apartment for 3 weeks?" "I was not sneaking. I was invisible." "Invisible? My technology allows me to remain unseen during observation periods. However..." The being looked down at their hands. "The invisibility function has been malfunctioning during meditation cycles." Lisa sat down on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb the floating lights. "So you're telling me that you're some kind of alien researcher who has been studying me for 3 weeks. And the only reason I can see you now is because your invisibility thing broke while you were meditating on my bed?" "That is a very accurate summary, yes." They sat in silence for a moment. Lisa was surprised to find that she wasn't scared anymore. Confused, yes. Overwhelmed, absolutely. But not scared. There was something about this being that felt safe. Maybe it was the embarrassment in their voice. Maybe it was the way they had asked permission to explain instead of just doing something threatening. "What's your name?" she asked. "My designation in your language would be closest to..." "Zix." "Zix? Yes, it is pronounced Zeeks when I'm Lisa." "I know," Zix said. Lisa Chen, age 28, works as a graphic designer. Enjoys cooking shows but rarely cooks elaborate meals. Prefers tea to coffee, and has remarkably consistent sleep patterns for a human. Lisa wasn't sure whether to be impressed or creeped out by how much Zix knew about her. "You've been taking very detailed notes." "It is my job." "Right. The research thing." Lisa watched the thought forms floating peacefully around them. "So what happens now? Do you disappear and pretend this never happened? Do you erase my memory or something?" Zix was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know," they finally said. "This situation was not covered in my training." "What do you want to happen?" Another long pause. "I would like to continue my research. Living among your species has been educational in ways I did not expect." "Living among us? You mean you want to stay?" "If it would be acceptable to you." Lisa looked around her small apartment, then at this impossible being sitting on her bed, surrounded by floating lights that hummed softly like a lullaby. "This is crazy," she said. "Yes," Zix agreed. "I don't even know what you are or where you came from." "Also true." "And you've been secretly living in my apartment for 3 weeks." "Correct." Lisa was quiet for a moment, thinking, "Have you been the reason my plants have been growing so well lately?" Zix looked guilty. "Possibly. And why my phone battery never seems to die anymore. That may also be related to my presence. And I've been sleeping better than I have in years." Thought forms can have a calming effect on nearby consciousness. Lisa looked at Zix, then at the floating lights, then back at Zix. "Okay," she said, "okay. You can stay, but we need to set some ground rules." The next morning felt like waking up from the strangest dream, except Zix was still there. Lisa found them sitting at her tiny kitchen table, staring intently at her coffee maker, like it was the most fascinating thing in the universe. "Good morning," Lisa said carefully, still not entirely sure this was real. "Good morning, Lisa," Zix replied, finally blinking at a normal rate. "I have been observing your morning beverage preparation device. It's called a coffee maker. Coffee maker, Zix repeated, like they were taking mental notes. And this produces the dark liquid you consume each morning at exactly 7:23 a.m. Lisa glanced at her phone. It was 7:22 a.m. She had always been punctual, but she didn't realize she was that predictable. You really have been watching me closely, she said, starting her usual morning routine. So, tell me more about this research thing. What exactly are you studying? Zix straightened up, and Lisa could tell this was a topic they were excited about. My species has been observing various intelligent life forms throughout the galaxy for thousands of your years. We are particularly interested in domestic behavior patterns and how different species create what you call home. Home? Yes. Most species we have studied simply exist in spaces. They sleep, they eat, they reproduce, but they do not transform their environment into something meaningful. Humans do something unique. You take ordinary spaces and make them into more. Lisa looked around her small apartment. She had never thought of it as anything special, but she supposed she had made it her own. The plants by the window, the fairy lights she had strung around the bookshelf, the collection of coffee mugs from places she had visited. So you're like an alien anthropologist? That is a very accurate comparison, Zix said. I was assigned to study you specifically because your routines are remarkably consistent, which makes for excellent baseline data. Gee, thanks, Lisa said dryly. Nothing says exciting life like being picked for your predictable habits. Oh, I did not mean it as criticism, Zix said quickly. Consistency is quite rare and valuable. Most humans have chaotic patterns that make long-term observation difficult. Lisa started making her coffee, and Zix watched every movement with intense interest. How long have you been doing this job? This is my first solo research assignment. I have been training for approximately 50 of your years. 50 years? How old are you? In human terms, I would be considered quite young, perhaps equivalent to your mid-20s. Lisa nearly dropped her coffee mug. You've been training for a job longer than I've been alive, and you're younger than me? Time moves differently for my species. We live much longer than humans, so our education periods are extended accordingly. How much longer? Zix paused like they were calculating. Average lifespan is approximately 800 of your years. Lisa sat down heavily at the table. 800 years, that's... wow. Is that distressing to you? It's just hard to imagine. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with maybe 60 more years and you have 700-something to go. They sat in comfortable silence while Lisa drank her coffee. Zix continued to watch her with fascination, like every sip was worth documenting. Can I ask you something? Lisa said. Of course. If you were supposed to be invisible, why did I start noticing weird things around here? My plants growing better, my electronics lasting longer, sleeping better at night. Zix looked embarrassed again. Those were unintentional side effects of my presence. What do you mean? My species naturally generates what you might call positive energy fields. When I am in a location for extended periods, especially during meditation, it tends to improve the local environment. So you accidentally made my life better while spying on me? I was not spying, Zix protested. I was conducting legitimate scientific observation. Right, sorry. While conducting legitimate scientific observation on me. Yes, and I am pleased. That my presence has been beneficial rather than harmful. Lisa finished her coffee and looked at Zix thoughtfully. So what happens now? Is your boss going to show up and be mad that I found out about you? That is a complex situation, Zix said slowly. My research period was scheduled to last 3 more weeks. I was supposed to complete my observations and return with data. And now? Now I have what my species would call direct contact contamination. The subject of my study has become aware of my presence and is interacting with me. This changes everything. Is that bad? It is unprecedented. I do not know what the protocol is because this has never happened before. Lisa stood up and started pacing around her small apartment. Okay, so let me get this straight. You're an alien researcher who has been living in my apartment for 3 weeks. Your invisibility broke. I found out about you, and now you don't know what's supposed to happen next. Correct. And if your supervisors find out, they might make you leave or do something to make me forget this happened. That is a possibility I had not considered, but yes, that could happen. Lisa stopped pacing and looked at Zix. Do you want to leave? Zix was quiet for a long moment. No, they said finally. I find your species much more interesting than I expected. And you specifically are. Not what I thought you would be. What? Did you think I would be? From my observations, I expected you to be fearful, possibly aggressive when confronted with the unknown. Instead, you have been curious and remarkably calm. Well, you're not exactly threatening. You're sitting in my kitchen being amazed by my coffee maker and apologizing for accidentally making my life better. That is a fair assessment. Lisa sat back down and looked at Zix seriously. Can I ask you a personal question? Yes. Are you lonely? Zix's large black eyes seemed to focus more intently on her. What do you mean? I mean, you've been by yourself for 3 weeks, watching me live my life but not actually living one yourself. That sounds lonely. My species does not typically experience what you call loneliness. We are quite comfortable with solitude. But, observing your daily routines, seeing how you interact with your environment, how you make small choices that bring you comfort or joy, it has made me wonder what it would be like to experience those things rather than simply document them. Lisa smiled. That sounds like loneliness to me. Perhaps it is. So, here's what I'm thinking, Lisa said, leaning forward. What if instead of just observing human behavior, you tried experiencing it? Like participating instead of just watching? That would completely compromise my research. Or it would give you a totally different kind of data. Better data, maybe. Zix tilted their head, which Lisa was learning meant they were thinking hard about something. You would be willing to let me stay here and participate in your daily life? On one condition. What condition? You have to stop sleeping in my bed. Zix's skin somehow managed to look even more blue with embarrassment. Of course. I apologize. Where do humans typically have house guests sleep? Lisa looked around her tiny apartment. Well, that's going to be a problem. I don't exactly have a guest room. I do not require much space. And I only need to meditate for approximately 2 hours during your night cycle. Meditate. Right. With the floating light things. Thought forms. Yes. Okay, we can figure something out. Maybe you can use the corner by the window. The plants seem to like whatever energy you give off. That would be acceptable. Lisa stood up and extended her hand. So, roommates? Zix looked at her hand uncertainly. Is this a human ritual? It's called a handshake. It's how we make agreements official. Zix carefully took her hand. Their skin was surprisingly warm and had a slightly electric feeling, like touching a phone that was charging. Roommates, Zix agreed. Lisa grinned. This is either the best decision I've ever made or the worst, but honestly, I'm excited to find out which one. As am I, Zix said, and for the first time, Lisa heard something like excitement in that musical voice. All right, roomie, Lisa said. Lesson 1 in human domestic behavior. We need to figure out what you're going to do when I'm at work today. I will continue my observations. No. If you're going to live here, you're going to participate. That means finding things to do besides watching me. Zix looked genuinely puzzled. What would I do? Lisa looked around her apartment trying to see it through alien eyes. I have no idea, but we're going to figure it out together. 2 weeks into their roommate arrangement, Lisa realized she had never lived with anyone who found everything so absolutely fascinating. Zix approached human daily life like every mundane activity was worth a research paper. Lisa, Zix called from the kitchen on a Saturday morning. Why do humans heat liquid to consume it, then add cold liquid to make it cooler? Lisa shuffled out to find Zix staring at her coffee cup with intense concentration. You mean milk and coffee? Yes, the process seems inefficient. Why not simply consume the liquid at the desired temperature from the beginning? Because it's not just about temperature. The milk changes the taste. Ah, Zix said, nodding seriously. Flavor modification. This is more complex than I initially documented. This was how most of their conversations went. Zix treated everything from Lisa's morning routine to the way she organized her bookshelf as profound mysteries worthy of deep analysis. You know, Lisa said, adding milk to her coffee, if you're going to live here, you should probably try some human things yourself instead of just watching me do them. I do not require sustenance in the same way humans do. I'm not talking about needing it. I'm talking about experiencing it. Zix considered this. You believe I should consume human food for research purposes? I think you should try it because it might be fun. Fun? Zix repeated the word like they were testing it out. This is the concept of engaging in activities solely for enjoyment? Exactly. My species has not prioritized fun for many centuries. Lisa stared at them. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. It is not sad. It is efficient. Zix, efficiency is not everything. Come here. Lisa opened her refrigerator and started pulling out ingredients. We're making pancakes. What are pancakes? You're about to find out. For the next hour, Lisa taught Zix how to mix batter, heat the pan, and flip pancakes. Zix approached the task with the same intense focus they brought to everything else, asking detailed questions about every step. The bubbles in the batter indicate readiness for flipping. Right. And the golden brown coloration signifies optimal heating completion? You're making it sound way more complicated than it is, but yeah. When they finally sat down to eat, Zix took their first tentative bite. Their large black eyes went wide. This is unexpected, Zix said. Good unexpected or bad unexpected? Very good unexpected. The combination of flavors and textures is quite pleasant. Welcome to the wonderful world of human food, Lisa said. Wait until you try ice cream. Their peaceful breakfast was interrupted by Lisa's phone ringing. She glanced at the caller ID and her stomach dropped. Oh no, she said, what is wrong? It's my sister. She said she might visit this weekend, but I thought she was kidding. Lisa answered the phone. Hey, Katie. Lisa. Great news. I'm in town and I'm coming over. I'll be there in like 20 minutes. Wait, Katie, now isn't really a good time. Nonsense. I haven't seen you in months. I'm bringing coffee and those pastries you like. See you soon. The line went dead. Lisa stared at her phone in panic. Problem? Zix asked. My sister is coming here. Right now. Is that bad? It's bad because I can't exactly introduce her to my alien roommate. Zix looked thoughtful. I could become invisible again. I thought your invisibility thing was broken. It functions properly during non-meditation periods. The malfunction only occurs when I am in deep meditation. Okay, great. Turn invisible. Zix concentrated for a moment and gradually began to fade from view. Within seconds, they had completely disappeared. Zix? Lisa called out. I am still here, came Zix's voice from somewhere near the kitchen table. This is so weird. 20 minutes later, Katie knocked on the door. Lisa took a deep breath and opened it. Lisa, Katie wrapped her in a huge hug. You look amazing. Really, really good. Thanks, Katie. Come in. Katie bustled into the apartment with bags of coffee and pastries, chattering about her drive into the city. Lisa tried to act normal, but she kept glancing around, wondering where invisible Zix was and hoping they wouldn't accidentally bump into anything. So, what's new with you? Katie asked, settling onto the couch. You seem different. More relaxed or something. Different how? I don't know. You just seem happier, more centered? What's changed? Lisa's mind raced. How could she possibly explain that she had been living with an alien researcher who had been accidentally improving her life with positive energy fields? I've just been sleeping better lately, she said, which was technically true. That's great. You always had such terrible insomnia. What helped? I started meditating. From somewhere in the room came a soft sound that might have been Zix trying not to laugh. Katie didn't notice. Oh, meditation. That's so unlike you. You always said meditation was too boring. Yeah, well, I found a new approach that works better for me. They chatted for another hour, and Lisa was starting to relax when disaster struck. Katie was gesturing while telling a story, and her hand knocked over her coffee cup. The dark liquid splashed across the coffee table and started dripping onto the floor. Oh no. Katie jumped up. I'm so sorry. Do you have paper towels? I'll get them, Lisa said, but before she could move, something impossible happened. The spilled coffee stopped dripping. The liquid that was already on the floor began to move backward. flowing up onto the table and reforming into a perfect puddle. Then the puddle lifted into the air and poured itself back into Katie's cup. Katie stood frozen, staring at her coffee cup. "Did that just—" she started. "Did what? Just what?" Lisa asked, trying to sound casual while internally panicking. "The coffee." It went back into the cup. "Coffee doesn't go back into cups, Katie." "But I could have sworn—" Katie shook her head. "I must be more tired from the drive than I thought." From the kitchen came a very quiet voice saying, "Sorry." "What was that?" Katie asked. "What was what?" "I thought I heard someone say sorry." "Must have been the neighbor's TV," Lisa said quickly. "These walls are really thin." Katie looked around the apartment suspiciously, but eventually sat back down. "This place has such a nice vibe," she said. "Very peaceful. And your plants look incredible. What's your secret?" "I talk to them." "Really? That's so sweet. You've really found your groove, haven't you?" They finished their visit without any more supernatural coffee incidents, though Lisa noticed that the temperature in the room remained perfectly comfortable the entire time, and Katie seemed unusually relaxed and happy. After Katie left, Zix reappeared looking embarrassed. "I apologize," they said immediately. "I did not intend to interfere, but your sister seemed distressed about the spillage." "Zix, you can't use your powers when people are around." She almost figured out something was wrong. But she was upset. "I wanted to help." Lisa looked at Zix's genuinely apologetic expression and felt her irritation melting away. "You were trying to be helpful?" "Yes, was that incorrect?" "It was sweet but dangerous." "We have to be more careful, I understand. Though I must say your sister seems very kind." "She is. And she noticed something different about me." "Different how?" Lisa sat down next to where Zix was still standing. "She said I seem happier. More centered. Are you?" Lisa thought about it. "Yeah, actually. I think I am. Why do you think that is?" "Honestly, I think it's because of you." Zix tilted their head. "Because of my energy fields?" "Maybe partly. But I think it's more than that." Lisa smiled. "You know how you find everything about human life so fascinating? The way you ask questions about things I never even thought about? It's made me notice my own life more, appreciate it more. I do not understand. Like this morning with the pancakes. I've made pancakes hundreds of times, but I never really thought about why they work the way they do until I had to explain it to you. You make ordinary things seem interesting." "Ordinary things are interesting," Zix said seriously. "Your species takes remarkable things for granted, see? That's exactly what I mean." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "Zix?" Lisa said. "Yes?" "What's it like being invisible?" "Lonely," Zix said without hesitation. "Very, very lonely." "Well, you don't have to be invisible around me, I know. That is, new for me. Good new or bad new?" "Very good new," Zix said, echoing their reaction to pancakes. Lisa grinned. "Tomorrow I'm teaching you how to make pasta. Will it be as complex as pancakes?" "More complex. And more fun." "I am looking forward to it," Zix said, and Lisa could hear real excitement in their musical voice. "Me too, Rumi. Me too." Everything changed on a Tuesday morning, when Lisa woke up to find Zix sitting perfectly still in their meditation corner, surrounded by thought forms that were flashing red instead of their usual peaceful blue. "Zix?" Lisa called out, but they didn't respond. The red lights were pulsing faster now, almost like an alarm. "Zix, what's wrong?" Finally, Zix looked at her, and Lisa could see something like panic in their large black eyes. "My supervisor is coming." "Your supervisor?" "Commander Kex. They are arriving today to collect my research and bring me home." Lisa felt her stomach drop. "Today? But I thought you had more time." "So did I, but apparently there have been some concerns about my extended silence. I was supposed to send regular reports, and I haven't." "Why not?" Zix looked embarrassed. "Because I did not know how to explain what has been happening here. How do I tell them that instead of observing human behavior, I have been participating in it? How do I explain that I have been learning to cook and experiencing something called fun?" Lisa sat down next to Zix, careful not to disturb the still flashing thought forms. "What happens when they get here?" "I do not know. This situation has never occurred before." "Will they make you leave?" "Probably. What about me?" "Will they do something to make me forget about you?" Zix was quiet for a long moment. "That is a possibility." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The past month with Zix had been the most interesting time of her life. The idea of forgetting all of it, of going back to her predictable routine without her alien roommate, made her feel sick. "I don't want to forget," she said quietly. "I do not want you to forget either." They sat together in worried silence until there was a knock at the door. But this wasn't a normal knock. It was a single, sharp sound that seemed to come from the door itself rather than someone knocking on it. Zix stood up immediately. "They are here. Already?" Commander Kex does not believe in wasting time. The knock came again, and this time Lisa could feel it in her chest, like the sound was vibrating through her entire body. "Should I answer it?" Lisa asked. "You have to. If you do not, they will simply come in." Lisa walked to the door on shaking legs. She took a deep breath and opened it. Standing in her hallway was someone who looked similar to Zix, but completely different at the same time. They had the same pale blue skin and large black eyes, but where Zix seemed gentle and curious, this person radiated authority and impatience. "You must be the human," Commander Keck said without any introduction. Their voice had the same musical quality as Zix's, but it was colder, more formal. "I'm Lisa." "Yes, I know who you are. Where is Research Specialist Zix?" "I'm right here, Commander," Zix said, appearing beside Lisa. Commander Kex looked between Lisa and Zix with obvious disapproval. "Explain this situation immediately." "Perhaps we should discuss this inside," Zix said. "Very well." Commander Kex walked into Lisa's apartment like they owned the place. They looked around with the same intense observation that Zix did. But where Zix's attention felt curious, Kex's felt judgmental. "This is highly irregular. Specialist Zix, you were assigned to observe this human, not interact with them." "Yes, sir. I understand that. Do you?" "Because from what I can sense, you have been living among humans rather than studying them. The energy signatures in this space are completely contaminated." "Contaminated?" Lisa spoke up before she could stop herself. Commander Kex turned those large black eyes on her, and Lisa immediately regretted saying anything. "Yes, contaminated. Zix's extended presence here has created an unnatural energy blend between our species and yours." "What does that mean?" "It means," Kex said coldly, "that this entire situation needs to be corrected immediately." "Commander," Zix stepped forward, "I believe my research has uncovered valuable information about human domestic behavior that could be beneficial to our understanding. Your job was to observe and document, not to participate and contaminate yourself with human emotional responses." "I have not been contaminated," Zix protested. "Have you not? Then explain why you failed to submit your required reports." Zix was quiet. "Explain why you chose to reveal yourself to the subject rather than maintaining proper observation. Protocols." "Still quiet. Explain why you are currently experiencing what humans call emotional distress at the prospect of leaving this assignment." Lisa looked at Zix and realized that Commander Kex was right. Zix did look distressed. Their thought forms, usually so controlled and peaceful, were swirling in agitated patterns around them. Zix started, then stopped. "You have formed an attachment," Commander Kex said with obvious disgust. "This is exactly why direct contact is forbidden." "Is that really so terrible?" Lisa asked. Both aliens turned to look at her. Zix looked surprised that she was speaking up, and Commander Kex looked annoyed. "You will not interfere in this conversation." "Human." "Actually, I think I will," Lisa said, feeling braver than she had any right to feel. "This is my apartment and Zix is my friend. I have a right to be part of this conversation." "Friend?" Commander Kex repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Specialist Zix, is this true? Do you consider this human to be your friend?" Zix looked at Lisa, then at their commander, then back at Lisa. "Yes," they said quietly. "I do." "Then you are more contaminated than I thought. We will need to begin memory correction procedures immediately." "Memory correction?" Lisa asked. "The process by which we remove all traces of contact from your memory. You will forget that Zix was ever here." "No," Lisa said firmly. "I don't consent to that." Commander Kex looked at her like she was an interesting bug. "Your consent is not required." "Actually," Zix said suddenly, "I believe it might be." Both Lisa and Commander Kex stared at Zix. "What do you mean?" Kex asked. "I mean that Lisa may have developed a resistance to memory modification. That is impossible." "Is it?" "She has been exposed to my thought forms for over a month. She has been in close proximity to my energy fields during meditation periods. She has even begun to perceive and interact with thought form constructs herself." Lisa looked at Zix in confusion. I have? Remember the night you helped me create the light pattern that looked like a flower? You were directly manipulating thought forms. Lisa did remember that. She had thought it was just her imagination, but now that Zix mentioned it, she realized she had actually been making the lights move. Commander Kex was looking between them with growing alarm. Show me, they commanded. Zix created a simple thought form, a glowing blue circle that floated between them. Lisa tried to change its color. Lisa stared at the floating light. She remembered the feeling from that night, like reaching out with a part of her mind she didn't know existed. She concentrated, and slowly the blue circle began to turn green. Commander Kex made a sound that might have been alien swearing. How is this possible? Kex demanded. I believe extended exposure to our energy fields has modified her neural pathways, Zix explained. She has developed what we might call quantum consciousness bridging. That is impossible. Humans do not have the brain structure for quantum consciousness. And yet, Zix gestured to the green light still floating in front of Lisa. Here we are. Commander Kex stared at Lisa like she was a completely different species. This changes things. How? Lisa asked. If you have genuinely developed consciousness bridging abilities, then memory modification could cause severe neurological damage, possibly death. Lisa felt her knees go weak. Death? The memory modification process requires temporary disconnection of neural pathways. If your pathways have been quantum enhanced, disconnecting them could cause complete system failure. So you can't erase my memory, not without potentially killing you. Lisa looked at Zix, who looked both relieved and worried at the same time. So what happens now? Lisa asked. Commander Kex was quiet for a long moment, clearly thinking. This is unprecedented, they finally said. I will need to consult with the High Council. And until then? Until then, nothing changes. Specialist Zix will remain here under observation while we determine how to proceed. You're staying? Lisa asked Zix. It appears so. But Commander, Zix said, what about the contamination concerns? Commander Kex looked around Lisa's apartment one more time, their gaze lingering on the healthy plants, the peaceful atmosphere, the way Lisa and Zix stood near each other like they belonged together. Perhaps, they said slowly, contamination is not the right word for what has happened here. What would be the right word? Lisa asked. Evolution, Commander Kex said. You may have accidentally evolved. 3 weeks later, Lisa's small apartment had become the strangest place on Earth. Her living room now hosted daily meetings between alien researchers and human scientists, all trying to understand how she had developed the ability to manipulate thought forms. Can you make it spin the other way? Dr. Rodriguez asked, taking notes as Lisa concentrated on a floating blue triangle. Like this? Lisa made the triangle rotate in the opposite direction. Fascinating. The neural activity in her temporal lobe is unlike anything we've seen. Lisa had gotten used to being studied, though it was weird being on the other side of research after watching Zix observe her for so long. At least now she was a willing participant. Zix sat nearby, also being monitored by various devices. Their situation had become just as unusual as Lisa's. According to Commander Kex, no member of their species had ever developed emotional attachments or learned to enjoy activities purely for fun. Both subjects continued to show remarkable adaptation, Commander Kex announced to the room full of researchers. The human has developed quantum consciousness capabilities, while Specialist Zix has developed what we can only call emotional intelligence. So what does this mean for both of our species? Dr. Kim asked. It means, Commander Kex said, that we may have discovered something entirely new, a form of beneficial evolution that occurs when our species interact as equals rather than observer and subject. Lisa looked around the room at all the people studying her and Zix. So, we're like a science experiment? You are proof of concept, Commander Kex replied. Proof that meaningful cooperation between our species is not only possible, but mutually beneficial. What kind of cooperation? Lisa asked. That remains to be determined. Over the following days, Lisa learned more about Zix's species and their vast galactic community. They had been observing hundreds of intelligent species for thousands of years, but always from a distance. They had never attempted true partnership with any of them. Why not? Lisa asked Zix one evening after the researchers had left. Because we believed ourselves to be more advanced, Zix admitted. We thought other species had nothing to offer us except interesting behavior to document. And now? Now I understand that advancement is not just about technology or lifespan. You humans have something we lost long ago. What's that? Joy, curiosity for its own sake. The ability to find meaning in small moments. Lisa smiled. You mean the ability to think pancakes are amazing? Yes, exactly that. They were sitting on Lisa's couch, surrounded by the familiar blue glow of Zix's thought forms. But now Lisa could see them more clearly, could even add her own touches to the patterns. It was like having a conversation in light. Lisa, Zix said, what do you want to happen next? What do you mean? I mean, if you could choose our future, what would it look like? Lisa thought about it. A month ago, her biggest concern had been whether to try a new coffee shop. Now she was apparently part of some kind of groundbreaking interspecies relationship that could change both their worlds. I want to keep learning, she said finally. I want to understand more about your people and your technology, but I also want to share human things with you, not just observe them, but really experience them together. Like teaching me to cook, like teaching you to cook, showing you movies, maybe taking you to see the ocean. Things that make being human special. Zix was quiet for a moment. I would like that very much. What about your research? What about going home? I think, Zix said carefully, that this might be home now. Before Lisa could respond, there was a knock at the door. Not the alien knock that had announced Commander Kex, but a regular human knock. Expecting anyone? Zix asked. No. Lisa went to answer it and found Commander Kex standing there, looking less formal than usual. Commander, I thought you were done for the day. May I come in? I have news from the High Council. Lisa let them in, her stomach nodding with worry. This was it. They were going to make Zix leave. The Council has made their decision, Commander Kex announced once they were all seated. And, Zix asked, they have approved the establishment of the first official cultural exchange program between our species and humanity. Lisa blinked. What does that mean? It means you two have become the first official ambassadors of interspecies cooperation. Ambassadors? Lisa squeaked. The relationship you have developed, the mutual growth you have both experienced, has convinced the Council that direct partnership could benefit both our civilizations. So Zix can stay? Not only can Zix stay, but they will be joined by other researchers interested in true cultural exchange rather than simple observation. And other humans will be involved? Eventually, yes. But you two will be the foundation of the program. Your apartment will become the first embassy of interspecies relations. Lisa looked around her tiny apartment and tried to imagine it as an embassy. I'm going to need a bigger place. That has been arranged, Commander Keck said with what might have been humor. The Council is prepared to be very generous with the ambassadors who made this possible. I can't believe this is real, Lisa said. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I would be recommending a human for ambassadorial status, I would have questioned their sanity, Commander Kex admitted. But watching you two together, seeing how you have both grown and changed, it has made me reconsider many of our long-held beliefs, such as the idea that emotional attachment is weakness, such as the belief that joy is inefficient, such as the assumption that we are the most advanced species simply because we live longer and have better technology. Zix's thought forms brightened with what Lisa now recognized as happiness. So this is really happening? This is really happening. Congratulations, Ambassador Zix, Ambassador Lisa. Lisa felt tears starting in her eyes. Ambassador Lisa, that's going to take some getting used to. You have time to adjust. The program will be implemented gradually. What about right now? What changes immediately? Commander Keck stood up. Right now you continue doing exactly what you have been doing. Learning from each other, growing together, and proving that cooperation is more powerful than observation. After Commander Kex left, Lisa and Zix sat in stunned silence. We're ambassadors, Lisa finally said. We are ambassadors, Zix agreed. I don't know how to be an ambassador. I do not either, but we will learn together, just as we have learned everything else. Lisa leaned back on her couch and looked at her alien roommate, who was creating little celebration fireworks with their thought forms. You know what this means, right? She said, what? I'm going to have to teach a lot more aliens how to make pancakes. Zix's musical laugh filled the apartment. I think they will enjoy that very much. And you're going to have to learn about a lot more human things. Art, music, literature, sports. Will you teach me? Of course. That's what friends do. Ambassador friends, Zix corrected. Ambassador friends who used to be roommates. Still roommates, Zix said firmly. Just with a bigger apartment and more responsibility, Lisa grinned. I love our weird life. I love it too, Zix said, and the thought forms around them pulsed with warm, golden light. Outside, the city continued its normal routine, completely unaware that in one small apartment, two friends had just accidentally changed the course of interplanetary relations forever. But inside, Lisa and Zix were already planning their next cooking lesson, because some things were more important than being ambassadors. Some things, like friendship and pancakes, were universal. So, Lisa said, what do you want to learn tomorrow? Everything, Zix replied without hesitation. I want to learn everything. And that, Lisa thought, was exactly the right answer.